release from in the morning.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Breaking Badger News. I'm your host, as always, your friendly neighborhood Simpsons kin, Maximilian Julius Darrett. And joining me for this edition of Breaking Badger News are the Doge in charge, Brian Martinez, and the pun master, Hannah Wallen. Guys, how are you doing?
Not bad.
Doing well. Thank you very much, Max.
Yes, we're all very keen to just get to this news because it's really important news and there's a lot to discuss. So, Brittany Pettibone, her partner, Martin Sellner, and Lauren Southern have been banned from the UK on the basis of supposed racism and support of right-wing extremists. I'm pretty sure you guys know who these people are, but just in case, I'm just going to give you brief descriptions. Brittany Pettibone is a self-described political activist, author, and independent journalist. Martin Sellner is an Austrian activist and a leader of the anti-immigration group Generation Identity, and Lauren Southern is a conservative, independent news pundit.
Oh, and Lauren Southern also is an author. She wrote a book.
Oh yeah, that's right. She what was it called? Barbarians?
Barbarians. I have it. It's a little hard to see on my shelf because it's a little bit on the thin side, but she did write a book. But yeah,
she did.
So
yeah, I gotta get around to reading.
Love you, Lauren. Love you, Lauren.
That puts her one up on many of her critics.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Her critics, many of which who do not know how to read.
And many of which can't write a full sentence.
Yeah, or even the people that we're about to be talking about who can't even check their grammar. Pettibone and Sellner were held in a UK detention center for 3 days. Upon release, they were given a notice of refusal of leave to enter. Now, I say improper use of grammar because in the letter that I'm about to read to you, there's grammar issues and also spelling problems. But for your own sanity, I correct them in the speech that I'm about to give. So, quote, "You have asked for leave to enter the United Kingdom as a visitor for 5 days. But as you stated in your interview, I have reasons to believe that you are seeking admission to the United Kingdom to interview Tommy Robinson, a far-right leader whose materials and speeches incite racial hatred. You stated at the interview that you will be filming your boyfriend Martin Sellner's speech at Speaker's Corner in London Hyde Park. Your boyfriend admitted at the interview to being a co-founder of the Austrian branch of Generation Identity, which is viewed in the UK as a right-wing organization. Furthermore, your boyfriend has in his possession the leaflets with scenarios regarding possible violence at his speech. I believe that your planned activities whilst in the United Kingdom bear a serious threat to the fundamental interests of society and are likely to incite tensions between local communities in the United Kingdom." Southern was held under Schedule 7, the Terrorism Act, for 6 hours. She was also issued a notice of refusal of leave to enter. Here's the content of her letter. Quote, "You have asked for leave to enter the United Kingdom as a visitor for up to 5 days. However, by your own admission on the 24th of February 2018, you were involved in the distribution of racist material in Luton. I believe that your actions whilst in the United Kingdom present a threat to the fundamental interests of society and to the public policy of the United Kingdom. You have not sought entry under any other provisions under the immigration rules. I therefore refuse you leave to enter the United Kingdom. I propose to request that the competent French authorities remove you from the control zone." Now, let's just get right into things. Brian, your initial thoughts.
Well, my first thought is this year we're supposed to go into the International Conference on Men's Issues in London. Will MRAs be allowed to enter London? Because I say this because the SPLC has recently added male supremacists to the list, which includes NCFM and A Voice for Men. And perhaps by extension, that could be anyone who has been deemed an MRA according to the SPLC. So what if, we can't enter London? That was my first thought, actually. This could affect us.
I never even thought about that. And you know that if that is a problem, they're not going to let you know that it is a problem until you land at the airport, just for the most inconvenience possible,
Of course.
Okay. And we'll get into more thoughts in just a second because there's more stuff that we have to read. But I just want to get people's initial thoughts. Moving over to Hannah.
Well, my first thought on this actually didn't have anything to do with whether we'd be able to get in or not. But all of our listeners that are from the UK, this is why our colonial ancestors in the U.S. fought a war to separate themselves from the UK. This kind of behavior, the fact that somebody could just be labeled from the opposing party and therefore not allowed in. The opposing party to what? The controlling party, the controlling belief system. And all of a sudden, just because even in a country that is supposed to have free elections, you're on the other side of the popular side, not popular with the people, but popular with the oligarchy. You're not allowed in. So, in a nutshell, this is what we were walking away from, turning our backs on, and saying, fuck you too. And I think, the only thing that could possibly genuinely destroy America is if we stop doing that.
All right, so moving on. But first, I just want to say, while the whole Lauren Southern and Brittany Pettibone story is at the forefront of everybody's mind, there was a story that came out about 48 hours prior that is important to bring up in the context of this whole situation, because I really think that the UK doesn't have its priorities straight when it comes to preventing the incitement of racial hatred, and here's exactly what I mean. So, we also have some news that came out from a UK outlet called The Mirror. They made a report called, quote, Britain's worst ever child grooming scandal exposed. So apparently since the 1980s in the city of Telford, a population of about 170,000 people, as many as 1,000 children have been drugged, beaten, and raped, with 3 people being murdered and 2 others dying in tragedies linked to the scandal. This scandal is almost a mirror image of scandals that happened in Rochdale and Rotherham, and particularly in Rotherham there was, I think, 1,500 victims in a population of about 260,000. These are 2 other British cities. Apparently this investigation by The Mirror lasted about 18 months, and they uncovered the following details. Apparently, social workers knew of abuse in the 1990s, but police took a decade to launch a probe of any sort. And one of the main reasons why that is because, well, they didn't want people to find out that a lot of the abusers were from Asian communities, as the British people call them.
Asian.
And they feared being called racists for bringing this up. And guess what? The exact same thing happened in Rotherham. The vast majority of those targeted were young white girls. Council staff viewed, abused, and trafficked children as prostitutes instead of victims, according to previously unseen files. And a lot of the victims claim that the scandal is still ongoing. Now, here, just quickly, before we go on, here are the names of some of the Telford criminals that have been locked up over the years. And tell me if you can see a pattern here, okay? Tanvir Ahmed, Abdul Roof, Maruf Khan, Adel Ali, Mubarak Ali, Azhar Ali Mahmood, Kabi Mahmood, Muhammad Islam Chowdhury, Muhammad Ali Sultan, and Muhammad Yunis. Any connection here, guys? Anything?
I smell racism, Max. I think you need to...
Hey. I have yellow privilege, okay? I can't be racist, right?
Pump your brakes, kid. Those names could very well be white people. You know Muhammad is the most common name in the world, right? So I learned that from Superbad.
Infernalized racism.
Oh, God.
All right. So, but I do have some additional thoughts. There was another story that someone handed off to me from earlier. It was from late last year. So we're going to contrast what's been going on with this sex trafficking stuff and the rapes and so on. There was also a report from The Independent that is an article titled "More than 400 British ISIS jihadis have returned to the UK, report warns. Experts divided on extent of threat posed by returning fighters amid fears that they have disappeared." So over 425 ISIS jihadis have returned to London at the end of last year. But Lauren Southern and Brittany Pettibone, those people are the ones that we need to keep from getting into the country. And the reason why Lauren Southern was arrested was because she was handing out these flyers last time she was there that were critical of Islam. So basically, she was criticizing Islam. And
okay, got it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the cardinal sin. You cannot criticize religions such as Islam, feminism, stuff like that. So basically they deemed her a racist because, as we all know, Islam is totally a race and not an ideology. And she has been basically deported from London. I think that this is a permaban, right? Like they can't actually come back. Mm-hmm. Wow. But those jihadis can come right on in. That's cool. They're bringing diversity to the table, not Lauren. And all those girls that are getting like, kidnapped and raped and shit. I mean, it would be terrible except for the fact that they have privilege because they're white. So it's fine, Max. They're fine. They still have white privilege, and that's what's important.
Welcome to 2018, ladies and gentlemen, where being accused of being racist, even though you're not, is a lot worse than letting children get raped. Hannah?
But guys, you don't get it. You don't understand. It's not rape if you yell Allahu Akbar. Seriously, this I can't tell you how much. I can't tell you how much this pisses me off. And I know some of the materials that Lauren Southern was handing out actually highlighted the fact that this type of behavior was being tolerated, that this grooming ring, these grooming rings, and the rape that followed was being tolerated by authorities in Europe specifically because of who was doing it. And it is authoritative tolerance, authoritative permission for sex abuse. And I don't care who's doing it. I don't care who it's happening to. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter what their reasons are for tolerating it. It's still wrong. Tolerating sexual abuse of children is tolerating sexual abuse of children no matter who does it, no matter what beliefs they have that leads them to think that that's okay, no matter which children are targeted. There's no such thing as a child who is not too innocent to deserve to be targeted that way. There's no such thing as an adult who is exempt from knowing that children are too innocent to target. Period. And yet we have, these officials, and they're labeling two groups of people. In addition to the worst part of it is that children are being subjected to this horrible abuse, and the adults around them whose job it is to make sure they are safe because they are children and they can't do it themselves. The worst part is that, okay, but they're also labeling two groups of people. They're labeling the group of children involved valueless, unimportant, not human enough to protect because they're not the right color. And they are labeling the group that is, by belief system, associated with the perpetrators, barbarians, too stupid and too rough, too barbaric, too uncultured to understand that they are doing something wrong, and too evil and too dangerous to be stopped. It doesn't say anything good about anybody in this situation. And yet they take two young women who are only there to start a conversation, get people thinking, and perhaps maybe get some rational thought applied to this situation. And they decide they're the most dangerous people involved. I mean, what kind of insane system has been created in the UK? What kind of lack of reason have they fallen to? You usually don't see that level of crazy outside of an institution. But apparently now, government institutions are included in the type that's normal in.
Well, the worst part is, and I hate to rain on what is left of the UK parade, but as the demographics change more and more, as more Asians move in, this stuff is going to become more common because the belief system comes with, and it's just going to get to a point where, it's not going to be. I mean, it already isn't, the UK anymore, but it's really going to disappear. You're going to see that go away, and it's funny because so many of these migrants and illegal immigrants slip through the cracks when they're coming on, sneaking into London, and it's just like, well, we just don't have the manpower to contain it. They're just gonna get through. I guess there's nothing we can do except give them, homes and welfare and shit. But two white girls go to the airport and like, you know, one of their boyfriend of one of them, and all of a sudden they have the most efficient border patrol in the world. They're right on top of it. They got them. It's just like the priorities, they're just burying themselves. It's really messed up. And yeah, I still maintain what I said before. Like where does it end in terms of, you know, who is not allowed in London? Because Lauren, I don't think that she's at all that radical. I mean, she's pretty moderate, you know, by comparison to some. And I don't really know Brittany's work, but I'm guessing that she's probably a lot like Lauren because they know each other and they, you know, talk a lot and they're besties or whatever. So, like, where does that end? Because I would guess that MRAs are probably far more radical than somebody like Lauren Southern, who is maybe a civic nationalist at most. You know, so that's why, you know, I brought that up. I guess if we were just a little browner and a little rapier, we'd probably be able to get in. But I guess we're just not doing it right. So
there's so many choice quotes from this recording that I know could be used against us. Listen,
we're definitely going to get letters. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, we got to sort of wrap this up because we're going over 20 minutes, but I just want to say something, and I got to be careful about the way that I say this. I have half of my family originates from the UK, and a large portion of my family lives in Telford. And how can I say this? A part of my family was directly affected by these grooming gangs. So I have a bit of an emotional attachment to this issue, and I'm trying to not have that compromise my objective view of the situation. I'll say this, UK authorities, you better get your priorities straight immediately, because I can tell you what, you think that banning Pettibone, Sellner, and Southern from the UK is actually going to do anything? Let me quote Obi-Wan Kenobi for you. You strike them down, they'll become stronger than you can ever imagine. Now, I don't know about what Generation Identity is all about. I'm guessing they're just anti-immigration. Maybe there's some more scandalous elements to their organization. Maybe there's some bad elements. I don't know. I don't know anything. But let me tell you this. If there are bad elements, doing this is only going to exacerbate that. And it'll get to a point, if you don't do your job, it'll get to a point where people start taking things into their own hands and things are going to get violent. If you don't do your job, these people will do your job for you. And I can tell you, when somebody that's close to you has had their emotional, physical, and sexual personhood violated, nothing is off the table.
Okay. And to add, if you silence voices, which is what you were doing by, you know, taking Brittany Pettibone and Lauren Southern and Sellner, you know, kicking them out because you don't like them coming to your country to speak. When you silence people's voices and you silence conversation, discussion of problems, the only thing left becomes violence. And we're trying to avoid that, I think, by just having these conversations.
The worst thing that could happen by just having Pettibone, Sellner, and Southern in the UK is that maybe you have a really uncomfortable discussion and maybe you have a couple of ad hominems thrown each way. But at least then you let the ideas die and not people.
Well, the other thing is you can't criticize ideas that don't get expressed in front of you.
Exactly.
So when you silence voices, and if they're saying something stupid, or they're saying something wrong, or they're saying something bad, what happens is they go say it in an echo chamber where only people who agree with them are going to be. And they say it to each other, and they argue what they think the other side is with each other until they think they have come up with some great arguments. And a lot of times they come up with things that will fool the masses, but not necessarily the enlightened. So what you end up with is people going into an echo chamber like that, and they come out maybe a little stronger. Or maybe they get some people that are a little more naive to join them. And it's better to hear the ideas and to point out everything that's wrong with them, even if you have to do it over and over and over again, than it is to silence anybody.
All right. That'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Hannah and Brian for doing this with me on such short notice. If you liked this video, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps our content out. Well, with the YouTube algorithm, it just tells the algorithm that our content is worth watching, and it spreads it around to a whole bunch of more people. If you like this video, maybe hit that subscribe button. You know, we got tons of videos that are coming out from Honey Badger Radio every single week here, pretty much every single day, whether it's Hannah's show or the live shows that we do or Brian's fireside chats. Lots of great stuff. Thanks for joining us again, and until next time, bye-bye.